let's have a gander at what that corruption looks like in Georgia, wherein we see a new law being, it looks like it's going to be passed, that will attack Fani Willis. Yeah. That is, of course, because she is investigating Trump's crimes. Here it is.
What happens when the dear leader and his party decide that if the legal system's going to be used against the dear leader, then the legal system's got to go? What happens when you take it further? When you take it beyond criticizing the legal system, you take it beyond criticizing those who are investigating you, and you instead decide the system's got to go. I mean, we know what this looks like in other countries. What does it look like here?
Let me jump in ever so quickly. I apologize to Rachel. There we go. Recall that I have been pushing the importance of pursuing state charges against these electors, the false electors. Part of that reason why is because what they did, the fake electors, was, it appears, done with the knowledge of the state level Republican Party. That means all of that leadership bears criminal responsibility for this. And if we do not get this done in court, we don't get them prosecuted, the gavel doesn't fall on them, we're going to have more of this. Anytime somebody tries to hold a Republican accountable in the legal system, they'll say, you had your chance, you lost it, now we're in power. Nope, that's no longer a law that we broke. I will also note that part of the reason I was angry at Merrick Garland and am still furious with the man is because he allowed the 2022 election to pass by without pursuing any of these people. Pursue state-level charges, folks. There are 5 states where we can get that done. Do it.
Would anyone try that here in the United States, in our era, in our time? Well, here's tonight. Here's on the front page of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution right now as we speak. Quote, Republicans demand oversight of prosecutors amid Trump probe. Here's part of the lead from reporter Greg Bluestein at the AJC. Quote, the Georgia House tonight approved a measure to create a new state board that could punish or oust district attorneys. The latest step in an ongoing campaign by Republicans to exert oversight over prosecutors they see as skirting their duties. The measure passed the House 98-75 today over the objections of Democrats and prominent prosecutors, among them Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, who is leading an ongoing probe of Donald Trump. Republicans have rallied around the overhaul as a way to rein in, quote, rogue prosecutors. Powerful Republicans have put it on the fast track. The Georgia Senate has passed a similar version of this legislation, and the overall effort is backed by both Governor Brian Kemp and Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. I should mention Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones in Georgia is one of the people who's been notified by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office that he himself is a target for potential prosecution in the investigation into Trump's efforts to throw out the election results in Georgia and have election results in that state falsely declare him the winner.
In a stream done about 1 month ago, and in fact several streams since then, I have mentioned this guy specifically, Burt Jones. That is one of Merrick Garland's failures. By failing to pursue the charges recommended by the January 6th committee, Merrick Garland has failed. He has failed to keep Burt Jones, one of the suspects, according to the January 6th committee, one of the suspects in this crime. He has failed to keep him off the ballot. Why should he have been off the ballot? He shouldn't have been an option because he should have been in prison. Merrick Garland failed us. And these are the consequences.
The lieutenant governor is facing potential charges himself in that investigation. He and at least one Republican state senator who's also facing potential charges in that investigation, turns out they are strong supporters of this new measure that would give Republicans in the legislature effectively the power to remove prosecutors that they don't like. facing criminal charges? How about you vote yourself the power to fire the person who's going to charge you? The former president himself, Donald Trump, as of today, is urging Republicans in Georgia that they must pass this legislation. So Republicans will have the power to remove prosecutors in the middle of their investigations and in the middle of prosecuting any particular case that Republicans might not like for any reason.
Who's that a surprise to? No one. Folks, this is... You wonder what it looks like when a country falls. You want to know what Germany looked like in the 20s. This is it. The part that will get replayed in history books over and over will be the final blow. You know, the last moment where the legitimate president is dragged out of office by a mob of people wearing red hats, and the dictator for life is installed. That's going to take up most of the attention. But what made that possible, what led up to it, are moments like these right here. If there are protests happening regarding this, we should join them. I don't know of any yet, and I am not yet a large enough channel that I can say we need to protest in Washington this weekend and trust that I'll be able to get a crowd out there that won't make it look like there's anything but fringe support for justice in the United States of America. I can tell you, be on the lookout for protests about this. Join them if you care. Most importantly, make sure that you are making your voice heard through the means you do have available. There are contact links in the description. Get state charges going against Trump. We need as many blows raining down on him so he can block as few as possible. So he can get hit by some of them. He did enough crimes. I did 2 streams listing all of his crimes. He did enough crimes that we have the ability to launch multiple investigations. The fact that we don't have prosecutors tripping over themselves to get this guy is a real concern. We should have greedy prosecutors who want to make a name for themselves trying to get this guy. Why don't we? I can tell you why. It's hard for your career. It's bad for your career to go after the powerful in the United States because you're likely to lose and you won't be promoted for it. You won't be beloved for it. Unless there is a strong popular backing. Unless there is public outrage. Unless the public will not permit a prosecutor that does not do their job. We need to demonstrate that. We need to demonstrate that by contacting the DOJ. We need to demonstrate that by talking to our state attorney generals through email and saying, listen, I expect you to look out for me. That is your job. I see you failing to do it in Arizona. I see you failing to do it in Pennsylvania. I see you failing to do it in Nevada. I see you failing to do it in New Mexico. I see you failing to do it in Wisconsin. I see you waiting on Merrick Garland, who would rather have a warm cup of tea and a long nap than put in a day's work as a prosecutor. And I see you failing me. And you will not be the attorney general after the next election if you do not pursue state charges for the false electors. Do that. Links in the description. Do that.
And to be clear, this has now passed the Georgia legislature as of tonight. A version of this bill passed the state Senate, and the House just passed it tonight. And the Republican governor there, Brian Kemp, he says he will sign it. He is a strong supporter of this. So they're doing it. And I don't know, maybe this would be easier to see if it were happening in another country. And, maybe the leader of their party is still going to face criminal charges in other jurisdictions where he is under criminal investigation, like federally where he's under criminal investigation, or in New York State where he's under criminal investigation. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, none of us know. But in the one place where he is under criminal investigation and his party is in full control of the state government, they have just decided for the first time in that state's history that it is now, for the first time, within their own power to remove prosecutors in the middle of their duties on their own say-so. And yes, this is a story about Georgia, and yes, this is a story about Trump and the potential charges he's facing, but this is a whole new step for us as a country. This is a new thing for us as a democracy. This is not ranting against the investigators. We've seen that before. And calling people names and even picking off individuals in the law enforcement system to try to turn them into enemies. As bad as that all is, we have seen all of that before. This is not just trying to verbally and politically delegitimize the investigating entities. Those are all very bad things to do, but this is more. Sticks and stones, right? But this is dismantling the way the legal system works, so presumably it can no longer work against him.
And it is exactly what I have been warning about, and exactly why we need multiple states to pursue charges against the fake electors. I also recommend going with a previous plan. I'm going to be gentle to Rachel there. I also recommend going against the previous. I recommend going for a previous plan recommended after. See if I can find that. There we go. After we heard about Florida's SB 1248. If you don't remember that, Florida's SB 1248, it's Senate Bill 1248, suggested that Democrats be banned from Florida, the Democratic Party. It'd be kicked out. You can't run as a Democrat. Why? What was their justification? Their justification was that the Democrats in the 1860s supported slavery. That's correct. In fact, back when Democrats were the conservative party and Republicans were the left-leaning party, Democrats did indeed support slavery. That's what conservatives supported. The people who recommended that bill were clowns. But I suggest that we do a bill similar to Florida's Senate Bill 1248, but change it instead to ban any party whose current membership includes people who have participated in the January 6th insurrection. I suggest in that bill that we include a 60-day window that would allow that party to preserve itself by expelling those members who betrayed our country. It just became a lot more relevant, folks. Look, we keep watching Republicans take the gloves off, and then we allow ourselves to box with them for 12 rounds before we consider, all right, it's 12 rounds is the whole match. We box with them for 6 rounds, half the match, before we also take our gloves off. Let's not keep doing that. That's a dumb strategy. I'm not saying we be the first to take our gloves off, but clearly the gloves are off. So let's join them. I also recommend you write your senator, link in the description, tell them that you want them to, your state senator I'm talking about, tell them that you want them to introduce a bill that would ban any party whose membership includes people who have participated in an insurrection against the United States. Anybody who was part of the Jan 6 riot should disqualify their party, their whole party, from membership. Because if their party is allowing them in, they have made clear where they stand on that issue, and that issue is un-American. We cannot allow that to be treated as though it's a normal political party. It's not. It's a criminal organization. There's another aspect of this that Rachel Maddow did not cover, but our good friend Michael Popak did. Have a look.
Michael Popak, Legal AF, with breaking news. Well, the Georgia legislature pressured by outside forces like Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Republican MAGA in Congress, are going after Fani T. Willis, the prosecutor of Fulton County, who's on the verge, on the precipice of going after Donald Trump for conspiracy and racketeering and all sorts of things related to election interference, coming out of the special grand jury's recommendation about multiple defendants involved with election interference. How do I know? The legislature's going after Fani T. Willis and likely the 14 other minority and black prosecutors in Georgia out of 50, because there are several bills being passed around the primarily white legislature, which is targeting prosecutors and specifically Fani T. Willis. These bills are trying to set up an oversight board of 8 people appointed by the governor, Governor Kemp, in this case, who would, quote unquote, oversee and possibly remove prosecutors for whatever willful misconduct those Republican right-wingers come up with. This oversight was not necessary, apparently, in 2020 when there really was an example of a corrupt prosecutor who refused to prosecute the white murderers of Ahmaud Arbery when they chased him through a neighborhood in Georgia and executed him on the side of a road.
I don't know if you remember that, but yes, there was a great deal of controversy around that. This was a lynching. There's aside from the murder tool used, there's not a difference. They saw a black guy. They didn't like the cut of his jib because guess what? It was a black guy and they were racist. They ran him down and they killed him. In the 21st century, this happened. The prosecutor at the time did not want to pursue him. Didn't want to go after charges for the 2 people that did this. Well, Democrats tried to respond to this. Republicans used that genuine effort to pursue justice in the United States, and as they always do, they turned it on its head in this case. They are trying to use it now to go after Fani Willis, who's going after Trump. And they've changed the bill so that a tiny, tiny sliver of people in Georgia need to agree with it, like 2%. 2% of the population. That's it. The person who would decide, the final deciders of who would give the yes or no to the prosecutor, would be a board appointed by the governor. Governor is a Republican. Now look, this bill, theoretically, could be used for good. Indeed, it could. But it requires a left-leaning governor in office to appoint that board. And it gives way too much power to the governor. It's like saying if you had a king, you could have a good king. Yeah, you could have a good king, a kind-hearted king. Except we decided a couple of 100 years ago that we did not want a system of government like that. We wanted a system of government that was not minority rule, that was not ruled by a sliver of our population. We wanted a democracy. We wanted us to get together, vote on things, and decide what should be. Having 2% of the population constantly get to say, no. Not good, folks. Add in gerrymandering, and you have the corrupt system we have today.
That prosecutor was found to have committed misconduct. She was white, and there was a move in 2020 by Democratic legislators in Georgia to set up an oversight board. And do you know how many Republican legislators joined in and helped set up that bill or helped set up that oversight board? Exactly 0.
So I just wanted to include that bit from Michael Popak because it illustrates that this is not about the principle of the law. Obvious. I mean, we knew that. We knew that. But I just wanted to be absolutely clear that this is not some law that they've been considering for a while and saying, well, we don't know if we structure it this way, then maybe. No. It's naked partisan politics. Before, when that was done, there was a reason. There was a thing that had happened that showed a weakness in the system, showed problems. We had a Georgian killed and no justice was being sought for him. That was a legitimate pursuit of this policy. What is happening now is naked partisan politics. It's an embarrassment. Let me tell you what you can do about it. So look, it's time to hit these people harder than we have been. Number one, the most important thing to do, encourage, if you live in a fake elector state, encourage your attorney general to go after the fake electors. The fake elector states are Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. In Georgia, that was also a fake elector state. All right, Georgia and Michigan were also fake elector states. But Michigan's got an investigation open. A couple of rowdy Michiganders sent enough emails, and the attorney general, I say a couple, probably numbers somewhere around 30, sent enough emails that the attorney general understood that the people wanted a state-level investigation opened. In Georgia, obviously, Fani Willis, superstar. She has been pursuing the charges as well. Got good news for Chris Mays, the Attorney General of Arizona. It looks like she is considering strongly opening a state-level investigation, but she hasn't. In New Mexico, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, not a peep. Let me stress, those are all Democrat attorney generals, or Democratic attorney generals, Christ. Those are all Democratic attorney generals. That means they're going to be not hypnotized by their own party. They may listen to their constituents on this. But right now, they don't think their constituents give a damn. They think you are the same sheep that we have always been. It's not accurate. It's not true. It's simply the habit of people who lean left to be polite, to follow procedure, etc., etc., etc. And it is not a cultural habit of ours to, say, write an email to our attorney general. Make it a cultural habit. Make sure that Chris Mays in Arizona knows, if you live in Arizona, that you want that pursued. Make sure Raul Torres in New Mexico knows that you want that pursued. Make sure Aaron Ford in Nevada knows that you want that pursued. Make sure that Josh Shapiro and his likely replacement Michelle Henry in Pennsylvania wants that pursued. Make sure that Josh Call in Wisconsin knows that you want that pursued. Write their email. The link is in the description. The other thing we can do is hit harder than we have been hitting. It's obvious at this point that the Republican Party as it exists is a criminal organization. We need to treat it as such. We can be merciful and give them an opportunity to get their party in order. But we cannot leave them the option of continuing to exist as they have been, because it is a party of traitors. It's a party of traitors. As it currently exists, it cannot go on. So, tell your representatives that you want them to introduce a bill similar to Florida's bill, SB 1248, but change it instead to ban any party whose current membership includes people who have participated in the January 6th insurrection. When I say we can be merciful, I mean we can include a 60-day window, it's 2 whole months, that would allow that party to preserve itself by expelling those members who betrayed our country.